A lot of people feel that baseball is America's national pastime. On this week's edition of Mastodon Spotlight, we have someone who's going to try to disprove that. As one of our guests will be head softball coach Keith Fisher. Also joining us on the program later will be head volleyball coach on the women's side, Kelly Hartley, to talk to us about their recent West Coast trip out to California. It's softball and women's volleyball on the menu this week. Our show is called Mastodon Spotlight, and it's coming up next. Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Mize. Welcome once again to Mastodon Spotlight. Well, as I said a moment ago, a lot of people feel that baseball is America's national pastime. Used to hear that old commercial, baseball, apple pie, what was it, Keith? Baseball, apple pie, baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet.
There we go.
That's what it was. But joining us for the first half of the program this week, someone who may want to disprove that notion. We welcome back to the program head softball coach Keith Fisher. Welcome back.
Thanks, Mike.
And again, I appreciate you coming in on short notice. Softball, it's an exciting game on a college level.
Very exciting, very exciting. Very fast sport, 60-foot bases, 43 feet from pitcher's mound to batter's box, so it's a quick game. Quick
game, and something that I want to get into a little bit later. And we've talked, this is your number four.
Number 4.
Holy cow. You're number 4 of Mastodon Spotlight. You're number 4 here for you as the head coach of women's softball. Where's the time gone? Some people perceive softball as just a get-together, truthfully. And what I'd like you to do is to prove to our viewership that gals who participate in women's softball are really athletes.
We've got some tremendous athletes this year, and if people need to come out and watch softball. Baseball has always been the big thing in the United States and America and across the world, but and I think softball has, but with not much recognition. I think this year when they showed the College World Series in softball, people all of a sudden looked at that and thought, wow, how fast are these girls, how strong are these girls? How great are the pitchers? And so I think that's helped promote a little bit of softball because people are not aware of it. If it's not on TV, sometimes people don't drive around the block to watch somebody play softball. But we welcome everyone in this community and surrounding community to come watch us. It'd be very exciting. We've got some tremendous athletes this year, and we're going to continue to have tremendous athletes.
Well, we're going to talk about the schedule, what's still to come in a later segment. But right now, let's talk a little bit, before we go into the roster of this year's team, this is your number 4. In your estimation, how has this program progressed? Well,
it's sometimes you look at the wins and losses, and we have done better. That's our goal, to be a winning team, naturally. Our goal is sometime to be in a conference and be a conference champion, go to the College World Series. So with those goals in mind, we're going to progress. And in order to do that, we need top athletes, and I've recruited a good freshman class, had a good freshman class last year, and we played some fall games this year, and we can see that we do have some very good athletes.
Well, before we talk about what has already transpired, and as you say, you've played 4 games already.
Right.
Let's talk about the makeup of the, I guess we're going to call it 2003 women's softball team. And you mentioned you brought in some talented freshmen, but you've got, as we counted before we started taping, 9 returning players.
Right.
So that experience factor is definitely going to help this year.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the 9 returning players.
Well, our seniors this year, Crystal Fisher was our starting catcher. Very, very good athlete. She's from her freshman year to her senior year. I've seen her progress tremendously. Lori Frote's another one. She's one of our outfielders, starting outfielders. Another young lady that's progressed. She would bat maybe in the 7th and 8th spot, and now I have her leading off. And when you have a leadoff batter that can hit doubles and bunt and slap and do things that you want, it really improves your chances to score runs. And if you don't score runs, you're not going to win ball games. So those two young ladies, we do have two other seniors, Stephanie Roth, who is a tremendous young lady, fills in different spots wherever we need her. Amanda Jaffe, she's a junior college transfer. This is her 2nd year here. She's having a little physical problems right now as far as her blood pressure, and so we're holding her out right now to make sure everything's okay. Those are our seniors. Junior mainstay pitcher, Mindy Pomeroy. Mindy Pomeroy, and I've mentioned on shows before that she's probably the best losing ERA pitcher in the country. Well, Mindy has just, from her freshman year to her junior year, has just got that much better. Coach Smith's worked with her for hours and hours, and she won her first 2 ball games this fall, and she's very domineering at this time on the mound, and she will continue to be. She's a real competitor. Our other junior is Carolee Johnson. She plays outfield. Carolee's been playing outfield. We've been pinch hitting for her once in a while, or she'll pinch hit for someone, so she'll fill in. Our sophomores, I might have missed a junior, but our sophomores, Mindy Mason. Mindy, left-handed pitcher, really will rely on her a lot this year also. We feel right now 3 legit pitchers. Before, when I first started, I had one pitcher to pitch all games, basically. Last year we had 2. Now, with the freshman Beth Harmon coming in, and we give her a little pitching time this weekend, and she did a really tremendous job. So we feel we have 3 legit pitchers, and we can move people around. We can help out from the bullpen and things like that. Before, we couldn't do that. So Tierney Green, second baseman, very solid, very solid. Tierney can play anywhere. I say second because I played her at second. Who knows where she'll play? She always looks at me and with a question mark in her mind. Angela Grabchek, very strong young lady, was our shortstop last year. I've had her in the outfield. She's got a tremendous arm. She's a tremendous hitter, very strong. Worked all summer on strengthening herself, her and Lori Frote, and I could see that come this fall. So we had a little talk with the team this morning about going up and above what we do in practice and what we do in strengthening to be a better player, what they have to do. And they know what they have to do. So our freshmen, I don't know if you want me to talk about our freshmen or not.
Let's just get everybody as we can.
Well,
the ones that you want to talk about.
I could talk about all of them. I'm super proud of all these athletes so far this fall. Heather DeVore is a freshman. She came from Adrian, Michigan, a tremendous, tremendous athlete. She's playing first base for us right now. She can also play third base. She's a good hitter, very smart, intelligent player. We have a big target. She's about a 5'11" over at first base, and so we've kind of struggled for a few years at first base. We didn't know who to put there. We probably put everybody, and I was thinking about going over there myself, but I didn't know whether I could do that. But anyways, we have Heather there. Beth Harmon, I mentioned, is a pitcher from Evansville. Will become I would say probably a premier pitcher eventually at IPFW and also wherever we play. Another freshman, walk-on, Sarah Lauer. She came from Homestead High School. She's trying to find a place where she really wants to, whether it's the infield or the outfield. So she's working hard to find her a place to play. Another freshman, Jenna Beachy. Jenna came from Woodland High School, and I'm very familiar. My daughter went to Woodland High School and played there, and it's just down the road from me. And I didn't recruit her just because she was from Woodland, but I recruited her because she's a great athlete. She's a great catcher, and I've been playing her at third base. She's got a tremendous arm, so she's a tremendous hitter. Another girl from Woodland was a transfer from Ohio Northern that played there. She was a second baseman at Ohio Northern. Right now, she's playing shortstop this fall for us as Laura Randolph, a very smart, very intelligent player. So, and I don't know if I've left anyone out on the roster, but we have a young lady that will be coming with us in January, which is Maggie Bruning. And Maggie Bruning, Maggie and I go back when I taught at Northside High School. She was one of my students, and I knew she was a good athlete, and she's a tremendous infielder. And so when she's eligible to play in January and when our regular season starts, we're going to be real excited to have Maggie with us.
What is the biggest challenge that your freshmen have when they come in to play college softball?
I think the biggest challenge is, and some of these kids that are away from home naturally, that's any college kids leaving and coming to a college setting, is whether they're going to adjust to the other older kids, whether they're going to adjust to being away from home, being away from mom and dad, brothers and sisters, and we had one of our girls get a little homesick. And I do, that's a natural thing. First weekend she went home. Second weekend she had a doubt whether she should go home or not. And so, but she's adjusting now since our practices have started and she's more involved in everything. But I think that's part of it. I think part of it is learning that the difference between high school softball and college softball, I think there's just a bigger commitment as far as year-round. Where in high school the kids play volleyball, basketball, softball, possibly that combination. Well, here they're practicing at a certain point in softball, conditioning, right back to softball. So there's some big adjustments.
Time for a break. When we come back, as we mentioned earlier, the team's already played 4 games this fall. We'll talk about those 4 games. We'll look ahead at the upcoming schedule. There's still some action that's going to take place the first weekend in October. And then we'll talk what's going to come ahead come February, including the big spring trip and so forth. But we'll talk about that and more when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
What's a college basketball game without a pep band? Pretty quiet, right, Don? IPFW is forming a new pep band, the Stomp Band, and we want you to try out. Hi, I'm Barry Sturgill, Pep Band Director. Auditions for the new IPFW Pep Band will be held October 6th and 7th, and our first gig is homecoming November 22nd at the Coliseum. Call 260-481-6372 for more information. Don't miss your chance to be a part of a new tradition at IPFW.
They came from every corner of the country. From small towns and big cities. But they all shared one thing in common. They belonged to a family called Marines. A tough and determined few, dedicated to protecting everything we hold sacred. And still they come. Celebrate the 225-year history of those proud few who have earned the title Marine.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Our topic for the first half of this week's program is women's softball. Our guest is the head coach of the IPFW women's softball team, Keith Fisher. And Keith, we just talked about the roster and the makeup of this year's team. And I know I threw the question out about what the biggest adjustment is for the incoming freshmen. Conversely, before we talk about what happened last weekend, the experience factor. We mentioned that we've got 9 returning players. Couple of seniors, 2 or 3 seniors and juniors and so forth. How are they relating to these incoming freshmen? Is there a good mesh so far? And are they relating their experiences to the freshmen as to what they can expect to see happen?
You know, when I took this job 4 years ago, I thought it's so competitive because everyone wants a position to play, so are they going to cut each other's throats and so forth? It's not quite that way. It's that, but our nine upperclassmen really welcomed the freshman group. They always welcome good athletes. They're really behind them, encouraging them. Our freshman pitcher, we had three, Beth Harmon, matter of fact, we had 3 inter-squad games, and they introduced her to college softball. She almost was in tears when she was finished, but they came over and patted her on the back, talked to her, we talked to her, and I'm glad we did that before we put her in real competition, which we did this last weekend, because it's something they have to adjust to. It's an adjustment for pitchers coming from 40 feet in high school to 43 feet in college. If they haven't practiced over the summer in that 43 feet range, some of their breaking balls are not breaking, winds up in the middle of the plate, and then, of course, you know what happens when it winds up in the middle of the plate. So, she adjusted, the kids adjusted with her. They accept them, but I tell the kids when they come in, whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, we're a team, but we're all competing for a position. So you are, working hard to be the third baseman, be the shortstop, be the first baseman, but we still work as a team. So I believe they understand what their talent level and this year, which is a good feeling, and I talked to my assistant coaches, there's Dr. Skelton, Dave Skelton, and Dennis Smith and Jennifer Long. I said, now we have to go, gee, who are we going to play? And that's a great feeling. As before, we thought, gee, how are we going to bring people to this position? Or, how are we going to do this? So it's a better feeling this year.
Well, let's talk about what's already happened. Last weekend, you finally had a chance to face live competition, and you took on Indiana Tech, St. Francis, the University of Indianapolis, and Taylor University. You won 3 of those 4 games. Defeated Tech 13-3, St. Francis 2-1, shut out the Greyhounds from Indianapolis 2-0, and then lost a tough 2-1 game to Taylor.
Well, we didn't play Taylor, Mike.
We didn't?
No, we played
Mike Jewell.
Yeah, we played Indianapolis twice.
Oh, okay.
And so we're going to play Taylor on the 28th of September. But it was good competition. Tech's local, St. Francis local. University of Indianapolis, the head coach is a good friend of mine, and it's fall. Everybody's trying to find out the freshmen, how good the freshmen. And he has a team of about 20, 22 kids, so he's trying to find the top 15, 16 kids that he's going to really keep on his roster. So they came up. It was great competition. Indiana Tech they're building a program. I know that feeling. I know that feeling that Brenda James, the coach over there, has as far as getting kids and getting in the positions that she wants and getting some pitching. 13-3 ball game is not a ball game, as I tell our girls. Good ball games are 2-0, 1-0, 3-2. So we did hit the ball very hard. We scored a lot of runs, and that's a good feeling. We played then St. Francis the second game, and St. Francis always plays us tough. I don't care when we play them, how we play them, or who we are, or what we are. So it was a good game. It was 2-1. We did some things that were correct as far as fielding, and we had some good hits. They have a little center fielder, and I believe she's a freshman, and she made 5 tremendous catches on us. 2 that were over the fence that she caught, 2 that were back by the fence, 1 diving catch. So she put on a show for St. Francis, and that kept the ball game close. Indianapolis came in. We beat them 2-0. It was a good ball game. Second ball game, they pitched a young lady that I was looking at as a pitcher, and he laughed at me. He says, "Boy, I out-shuffled you and got her." She was a tremendous pitcher. She's a freshman. We did not play. I told our girls we did not play to our ability. I thought we won 3 ball games, and I think we thought, well, we're going to win this ball game no matter what. Well, University of Indianapolis showed us that we weren't going to win the ball game. They out-hit us, and when you get out-hit, and we had more errors than they did, we had 4, and I think they had 2. You're not going to win ball games. Stats don't lie. So we said we had to do some things. we're going back to the drawing table. We learned some things about covering bunts that we didn't, we thought we knew what we were doing, and so we practiced that this morning and for about a good hour, solid hour, of bunting and covering bunts. So
these fall games, technically they don't count in the
Right.
win-loss standings, but you've got this fine line from the competitive angle. You want to win the game.
sure.
But also, as you mentioned for your team, you mentioned for Indiana Tech, you're trying to gel as a team. You're trying to find out who fits in where in this nice little puzzle that all coaches have. How do you mesh it together? What do when you look at these games, what is the number one goal in these fall games? Is it to win the game and create that winning spirit, or is it more or less to find out who plays best where and how they react in certain situations?
I think it's a combination of both. I never go. I tell the girls, and I never step on that field without wanting to win a ball game. I don't go to the nth degree to win the ball game or hurt anyone or anything else. But we always step on that field to win. But in the fall, we want to win, but we want to know where the right people in the right spots when it comes springtime. That we have an idea that's who's going to play there, or we have or what the lineup as far as batting should be and so forth. So it's a combination of both. Naturally, we don't want to come out of the fall and lose every ball game and then scratching our heads and we don't know what's going on. It's a nice time to pitch your freshman pitchers to give them a little experience. We pitched our mainstay pitcher the first game, and our second pitcher, or I don't really classify them as number one, number two, number three. It depends upon whom we're playing and what pitcher would match up with them the best. So Mindy Pomeroy pitched the first game. Mindy Mason pitched the second game. Then Beth Harmon actually came in at the first game. Mindy pitched, I think, 4 or 5 innings, and Beth came in and closed it out. Did a great job. It got her into a game without all the pressure of going out there as a freshman and starting out right off the bat. University of Indianapolis, we started her. She did a great job. She went almost 5 innings. I think she gave up 1 run, and then we brought our left-hander in there to try to finish it off, and we tied the ball game up, and then they went ahead and they beat us by 1 run. And that's a ball game, a good ball game.
Well, 3-1, whether they count or not, it's
Right.
still 3-1. As I mentioned earlier, you've got another weekend of activity coming up, the first weekend in October.
Correct.
Where you're going to take your team over to Purdue.
Right.
And on the 5th and 6th of October, you're going to play Purdue. You're going to play St. Joseph's first on the 5th.
Right.
And then later in the day, you're going to play Evansville. And then on the 6th, you're actually going to take on Purdue once again.
Correct.
You played them last year.
Right.
Hopefully, this is the beginning of something good.
Right. Well, we hope so. We hope so, because every year, and even the Purdue coach tells their team, don't take this team lightly, because they're going to come in here and they're going to knock our socks off someday. And at the first time we played them, that was not true. But we went and played Notre Dame, played them tough last year, so we know what it is to play good teams.
Well, let's look ahead. Hopefully you'll get some more experience. The gals will learn to play together better and so forth. And then Old Man Winter's going to come and the snow's going to fly, and hopefully they're going to be hitting the books and hitting the weight room for conditioning and so forth.
Right.
But come February, let's talk about the schedule real quick in the last couple of minutes we have. I'm looking here. The last weekend of February, you're going to be going to New Mexico.
Right, New Mexico State. Right.
Talk about that a little bit.
Well, we're going to Las Cruces, New Mexico. We got invited. The head coach called me last year and said, Coach, you would be interested in coming playing in our tournament. And said we're inviting teams from the West, from California, from Arizona, from Mississippi, from all over. And we want to know if you were interested in coming, and we'll help you out a little bit if you come. And that's what some of the bigger schools can do. And we said, sure. Well, I checked on the finances and whether we could handle it. And we said, sure, we'll be there. So we plan on leaving on a Thursday. We play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then come back home on Sunday.
Then first weekend of March, you're going to go down to Evansville, I believe.
Right. Go to Evansville, and that'll be a tournament down there. And they bring some teams in from out east, Dartmouth and some other teams, and so there'll be some great competition there.
Then the middle of the month, if I'm reading the schedule correct, are you going back to Florida?
We're going back to Florida, yeah. We're going back to Orlando, and we'll have at least 10 games there, and just depends what teams they match us up with. It'll be all some really good teams. Colorado State's there, and Butler, Toledo, and so forth. We try not to play those teams as close to us that we're going to play here, so we want to play other teams that will not, be able to travel to play them.
We're going to scan the schedule here as we're almost
Okay.
out of time. Later in March, you're going to go back to Purdue for real.
Right.
Play Michigan from the Big Ten. You're going
Right.
to play Loyola. You're going to play Butler, and you're going to play Purdue. That's going to be an action-packed weekend.
Sure will.
Going to come home and play Valpo, and you already got a nice little rivalry with the Valparaiso Crusaders from the Mid-Con. Then you're going to go to IUPUI. You're going to go up to East Lansing and play Michigan State. They came in here last year and beat us, so we owe them one there. Going to go up to Kalamazoo and play the Broncos from Western Michigan. You've got Purdue coming in here on April the 8th, and we'll try to plug that as time goes on.
Okay.
But the Boilermakers are going to play here on Tuesday, April the 8th. Eastern Michigan comes in here on April the 12th. You go back to Valpo on the 15th. You go back to Notre Dame, and you played them tough there last year.
Right.
And you're going to finish it off. Indiana comes to town, Ball State, Butler, Western Illinois, and close it out with Indiana Tech. A heck of a schedule, to say the least.
That's a good schedule.
It's a good schedule. Final comment is, John says we're out of time. Your thoughts and goals on what you hope to accomplish with this team this year?
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to work real hard to improve our record, and we're going to be very, very competitive. And we hope everyone gets a chance they can come out and watch us.
We wish you well.
Thank you.
Keith Fisher has been our guest, the head women's softball coach here at IPFW. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, we hope to visit with Kelly Hartley, the head women's volleyball coach. They had an interesting trip out west this last weekend. We'll talk about that and talk about getting a chance to play at home and a big weekend we've got this weekend here at the Gates Center. So stay tuned. Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
I wasn't going to school because I was making money stealing cars. Well, I was 10 when I first got involved with drugs. I skipped school because, nobody cared.
When I first got pregnant, school was not important to me, so I dropped out.
Well, if I don't finish school, then I can't go to college. That's the whole point of what I want to do with my life.
I still need to go to school to make it for myself.
I think I'm happier now. I know I'm happier now.
Hello, my name is Estelle Ward, and I'd like to speak to someone about my daughter Ruth's financial aid. Hello, yes, I'm Ruth Ward's mom, and I was hoping the university might reconsider. She got good grades. Hello, I'm Ruth Ward's mother, and I'd like to speak to someone about my daughter's financial aid.
Young, who got some good minutes in the first half, hits the jumper. Tiffany Young, a junior from Hillsboro, Alabama, has 4. Young, 17, footer's got it. And Tiffany Young with a sensational performance.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Time now to shift gears, and as we leave the softball diamond, we head to the volleyball court, and we welcome back once again, third week in a row, head women's volleyball coach Kelly Hartley, and this is nice, a regular occurrence.
Is it 3 weeks in a row?
3 weeks in a row.
Are you counting?
I don't know. I never could count, and you know that. When we spoke last week, we had the emotional high, the winning of the Purdue tournament, but you had a big task in front of you because you were going to get on an airplane and head out west to California. And let's talk a little bit about that trip.
Do we have to?
Yeah.
We have to talk about something, don't we?
We have to talk about something here.
We'll talk about everything, maybe but volleyball out there, because we didn't do a whole lot of that, to be quite honest. We did not show up ready to play out in California. I mean, talk about seeing two polar opposite teams from the weekend in Purdue where we played so well and so much confidence and composure, and then in California we just didn't play well. And, you know, hindsight's 20/20. Maybe we shouldn't have left, where we, 48 hours early. Maybe we should just leave 24 hours before so we're a little more focused. But then you go, gosh, that's a long plane ride, and you're tired. It takes a little while to recoup. So I don't know what the deal was or why we didn't perform very well. I guess now, today, I'm not all that interested in the reason. I just want to start playing well again, and we have an opportunity tonight to do that against Bowling Green.
Again, hindsight's 20/20, but you did go out early, because you left on Wednesday morning, and I'll bet you everyone was still 3/4 of the way asleep by the time you get out to the airport.
We wanted to depart 48 hours before we played because you feel like that's a long trip, and there is a time, a jet lag type issue maybe with time difference, and you're sitting and traveling, how it is, takes a lot out of you. Yeah. So we thought, and if you go that far, my philosophy is if you go that far, you want to incorporate some educational things. We did go to Alcatraz and do that tour, which I've been to San Francisco 4 times and I've never done that. So it was a great, learning experience for all of us. But to do that, it certainly takes some resources to do those sort of things. And I just feel like if you're not going to play well, darn it, don't go. So the wound is not healed yet, but we take the court tonight and this weekend at home. So if we play better today and this weekend, maybe I'll feel better about that California trip.
For informational purposes, we got to mention just a little bit. I have to, otherwise I get shot.
Okay, all right.
You took on the host school, University of San Francisco, on the Friday night.
On Friday night, correct. And we didn't play that bad. We didn't play great. They were a good team, and we lost in 4. We really never got into rhythm with one another. Just didn't feel quite like I did the weekend before, for whatever reason, though. And they were a good team and played well against us. And then Saturday, I know you want to point out, we played number 25 in the country, Washington State, and they were an outstanding club. But again, I didn't feel like we even competed. I don't think we probably should beat that team, but I think we can play well and compete at all times, and we didn't even do that. So I was disappointed with that performance, and our whole team was. They know.
From a mental standpoint, I'm going to jump ahead because you had to play Butler again, second time in a week, and this time they beat you. Do you think, for lack of a better phrase, that the heads just weren't in it, especially after playing a top 25 team?
Well, I think we were coming off, at that point, we were coming off 2 losses, Washington State and San Francisco, and we just weren't very confident. I think with a young team, confidence and composure will ride a roller coaster this season. So we were, at that point, going into the Butler match, and then Butler had just beaten the host school, San Francisco, and played really, really well. When I was watching them, I was like, this is a different Butler team than we saw a week ago. And it's amazing how in 1 week's time, we take a nosedive and they start playing well. So a team can change and get hot, and that's what happened. We were probably at a low point, and Butler was on a roll, and that certainly was reflected in the scores on Saturday.
If you take it one step further, and you as a coach know this all too well, part of coaching is making adjustments. And how much do you think Butler took out of our first match and made the adjustments? Obviously, right now, we've got some talented players. We've got a great talented freshman from Brazil who is, I think, leading the team in kills.
She is, and she had a great weekend, obviously, at Purdue and was MVP there. Did not have a very good weekend, and she's a freshman, the media and a lot of people want to talk about Fabiana a lot, and, she is human. We can't put too much on her shoulders. We have a good team, and she's a part of that team. IPFW has, at least since I've been here, has not been a one-woman show, and I don't think we will be this year either. We have a good cast with Kirsta. Kirsta definitely played the best over the weekend, and you're going to talk to her in the next segment, a junior, and we moved her to the middle. And she's touching a lot of balls. She works very hard. She's up in transition, and it was reflected in her numbers too. She played well this weekend, and with a lot of heart and enthusiasm at times when some of her teammates weren't quite there mentally. But back to Fabiana, I think that yes, Butler had seen us once, and they knew that at least the weekend before, Fabiana got a lot of swings. And we heard their blocker saying, you know, going outside to number 6 every time, you know, saying things like that. I don't know if that got in their head or not, but she better get used to it.
Well, how do you counteract that, though? Obviously, as more opponents see, and obviously now that we're in Division I, even more so, you mentioned about the tape exchanges and future opponents, we get to see them, but they also get to see us. So how do we
counteract that?
Yeah.
And we certainly were effective last weekend, not this past weekend, the weekend before, against Western Kentucky. They were committing 2 blockers outside, standing 2 people in front of Fabiana before the ball was even served, wanting us to set elsewhere. And we did. You know, we said, well, they're not respecting our middles. Middles drive hard and bury this ball. And Lindsay and Kirsta stepped up and did. And we were able to set middle against, you know, a late block if they had one there. We ran Kirsta on a 2-ball once. She called for a 2-ball. No block on a 2-ball. And buries it. So that's how you counteract that. You set somewhere else. And that's why it goes back to we are not a one-woman team. We have a cast of players who at any given day can step up and get it done for us and put the ball away. Fabiana is very important in our lineup, but you know, if a team is going to commit 2 blockers out on her, we have to go elsewhere.
Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, as Kelly mentioned, we're going to speak with junior Kirsta Solberg and find out a little bit more about Kirsta and what she's like and why she came to IPFW and how she likes playing volleyball. But that's when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
What's a college basketball game without a pep band? Pretty quiet, right, Don? IPFW is forming a new pep band, the Stomp Band, and we want you to try out. Hi, I'm Barry Sturgill, Pep Band Director. Auditions for the new IPFW Pep Band will be held October 6th and 7th, and our first gig is homecoming November 22nd at the Coliseum. Call 260-481-6372 for more information. Don't miss your chance to be a part of a new tradition at IPFW.
As time flows on, there are places we return to again and again. Places that comfort us with their serenity. Places that astound us with their beauty. Places where our memories come to life. Precious places, timeless places, places that with your help can endure forever. I'm Paul Newman. Help the Nature Conservancy save the last great places around the world.
I was a liberal arts major in college.
I didn't speak a second language.
What could I?
What could I offer the Peace Corps?
The answer surprised me. I served in South Africa teaching HIV/AIDS awareness.
Working with my students in Nicaragua was a great experience. We taught each other a lot about our countries and cultures.
This is the Peace Corps today.
Redefine your world. Join the Peace Corps.
Apply now at peacecorps.gov.
All over America, people are taking the National Radon Test. Have you?
Would you put me on the spot?
True or false? Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer.
True. I'd say false.
No, it's true.
That's something new to me.
The Office of the Surgeon General recommends all homes be tested for radon.
False.
It's true.
True.
So it's bad. We should get our house tested.
Sure, I'm gonna call it.
1-800-SOS-RADON. How can you not call?
1-800-SOS-RADON.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Time now, and I know it may sound like a broken record for one of my favorite parts of doing this show, a chance to speak with one of our student athletes here at IPFW. And this week we have the opportunity to speak to a member of the women's volleyball team, and we're going to try to make her feel as welcome and as comfortable as possible. But we do welcome to the show junior Kirsta Solberg. Welcome.
Thank you.
For the benefit for some of our viewers that don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
I'm a junior here at IPFW, and I'm from Huron, Ohio, which is by Cedar Point in Sandusky area. I'm also a middle hitter right now, but I kind of switch around So play a lot of different positions. I'm also a graphic design major, and that's about it.
What led you to come to IPFW?
Volleyball, the recruiting of volleyball. But when I came for my visit, I really liked the graphic design program that they showed me, and I felt really comfortable coming here, so I decided to.
This is your third year here at the university, third year on the volleyball team. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Talk briefly about the differences in the three different teams that you've been on.
Well, it's been very different every single year. My freshman year was a lot of fun, a little hard because we did find out we were switching to Division I my freshman year, and things changed a little bit. And we had a really good team, and we actually won our conference, but it didn't really count because when we went to Division I, we were kind of kicked out of the conference. And so it was kind of hard because we had a really talented and good team, and we didn't get to do the things we wanted to, but we were successful and had a good season. It was a lot of fun. Last year was kind of a growing year. We had some new people playing together. We had like 5 new freshmen, a new setter who was coming in, and she was the only setter on our team, and so she had a lot of pressure on her. And we had a couple of seniors, but for the most part we were a pretty young team and hadn't played together that much, and things were changed a little bit. And we had a new schedule, new Division I schedule, so it was a lot different. But this year we also have another young team, but some of us have played together a little bit more, and we have a really good team, and we're used to the Division I schedule now, even though it's still kind of new, but we're used to it, and we know what competition is out there. So.
Silly question, but I'm going to ask it. What's the most exciting thing about playing volleyball to you? What do you like the most about playing volleyball?
The most I like is the competition. I like to go out and play a really good team, and that's one of the good things about going to Division I is that we're going to face a lot bigger schools and have the chance to compete against some really good teams. And I think that's the most exciting part, is when you get to play against really good teams.
You've had a busy couple of weeks as a team, because we talked on the show last week about the big win at Purdue, and I'll ask for your thoughts. You go up to West Lafayette, Purdue, amongst others. You played Western Kentucky when they were undefeated. You defeated them. You defeated Butler. You took Purdue to 5 games, or 5 sets. I never know which one to call it, but you took them to 5. Talk about what it was like winning that tournament, and then I want to talk about briefly what the trip to California was like last weekend.
Yeah, the Purdue tournament was really exciting because we went in there with a lot of confidence and just ready to play and play as a team. And it was really exciting to win because we really didn't have anything to lose. We just went out there to play because we knew that Butler's a good team, but that we could beat them. And Purdue, we've never seen them before, but we knew that they were a Big Ten school and that they were probably going to be a pretty solid team. So when we went out there, and we just played our best, and we almost beat them, and it was really exciting. And then Western Kentucky is a really good team, and they had been undefeated until we played them. And at that point, that was our 4th game in 2 days, and we were exhausted, but we just stayed mentally tough, and I came together as a team and played really well, and it was really fun.
I have to ask you, what was the reaction like when you were notified that you get to take home the trophy?
We were just so excited because we had worked so hard that weekend, and we were so mentally and physically drained because 4 games in 2 days is a lot. And especially most of them had gone 4 or 5 games. So we were so tired and just so happy that all of our hard work paid off and that we had won a trophy and we were going to get recognized. And
well, this past weekend you got on an airplane and you went out to California and you took part in a tournament at the University of San Francisco. Now I know from the wins and losses it didn't look good because we lost all 3 matches, but talk about the trip and not just on the court. I know you mentioned to me off air some of the things you did, and talk a little bit about what you did and how that's helping you as your team, as a team.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun out there. We did a lot of sightseeing, went and saw Alcatraz, and went to Fisherman's Wharf and saw the Curvy Street and all. We did all the tourist things. And it was a lot of fun. We all got a chance to get to know each other even a little more and have fun together. But we kind of got away from volleyball, I think, a little bit, and we weren't mentally prepared for the weekend, and so when we got out there and played, it was not good. So we're just trying to look past last weekend and know that we didn't do so well, but it's not the end of the world, and we still have a whole season ahead of us, and hopefully get back on the track we had at Purdue. So that's our goal from now on. So we had a good time, but we're going to concentrate on volleyball a little bit more now.
As we tape this interview, it's Tuesday, and you've got the home opener tonight against Bowling Green, and then this weekend we've got a big weekend invitational here. How important is it now for you gals to be playing at home instead of being on the road?
Well, after about 3 weeks of the season, and we still haven't had a home match, it's going to be really nice to be able to play in front of our friends and family and have a crowd supporting you, and so that'll be really nice. We're excited to be home and for a couple of, at least like a week or whatever.
2 quick questions before we're out of time. The first question, you're an upperclassman now, you're a junior, you're on your 3rd year with the team. What can you tell some of your freshman teammates? How are you able to talk to them and explain to them what they can expect to see happen in Division I volleyball?
They just have to expect to grow and know that this is just a first step and that we have so much more to go, and we'll have a lot of success in the future if we keep on pushing ourselves and not stop, and not just be happy with a Purdue Invitational tournament win, and hopefully hope for more than that now that we are eligible for tournament play and stuff.
Final quick question, because we're just about out of time. What's it like playing for Coach Kelly Hartley?
It's good. I liked her from when she recruited me. I always felt really comfortable around Coach, and it's still the same way. You know, go talk to her about anything, and she's just really cool with us.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule, and hopefully it wasn't as bad as you may have thought beforehand. But congratulations on your career so far here at IPFW, and good luck the rest of the way, not only this year but next year and in your postgraduate time as well. But thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
Kirsta Solberg has been our guest, junior on the women's volleyball team. We'll take a break and bring Coach Hartley back and talk about this upcoming weekend with the IPFW Invitational here at the Hilliard Gate Sports Center. That's when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
The good earth. It gives us everything. And now you can give something back. By becoming an Earth Team volunteer, you can help the Natural Resources Conservation Service care for the good earth, right in your own community. It's the only earth we'll ever have. Help make it a better place for all of us. Call 1-888-LAND-CARE to find out how.
A Stargate. That's the door to other worlds that my character Tilk and the rest of my team use on Stargate SG-1. It's a door to exploration and exciting adventure. And education can provide you with a similar passageway to a world full of possibilities. So stay in school and graduate.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Our emphasis this half of the program this week is on women's volleyball. We just heard from junior Kirsta Solberg, and now we welcome back head coach Kelly Hartley. And Kelly, first and foremost, Kirsta was nervous before we taped the interview, but she did a great job. Thoughts on her?
Well, Kirsta does a good job at anything she does. She's just that type of person. I wouldn't call her a perfectionist, but because, okay, well, here's a good example. I called her a 4-point student. I introduced her as a 4-point student yesterday, and she says, I'm not a 4-point, I'm a 3.9. Sorry, she's an excellent student. She's here on a Chancellor Merit Award, as well as her volleyball scholarship. She definitely puts the student and student athlete, and is a very articulate, as you saw, young lady. Very proud of Kirsta.
It's interesting, because one of the things I asked her, what led her to come to IPFW? And the very first thing she said was the recruiting, and that she felt comfortable here on campus. And that's something you would like all of your student athletes to be, is to feel comfortable when they come for visits, in hopes that they may come and stay and come here as a full-time student.
Yeah, as we walk around with prospects right now, it's one of the things we talk about. If you can't picture yourself here, if you can't picture yourself wearing blue and getting yelled at maybe a little bit by me once in a while, then you don't belong here. You have to feel comfortable, I think, on your visit and with the people you meet. And we're fortunate that we work at a university where there are a lot of warm faces around here and helpful people, and they make a good impression when we walk around with a prospect and their parents. So usually, they are comfortable. It comes down to something else, proximity to home or facilities and some things maybe some bigger schools have to offer. We might lose that prospect, but I don't think we lose prospects because of the way they're treated when they're here, or the sense of family that you can't help but feeling when you visit IPFW.
And just to take it one last step, and then we'll talk about what's coming up, we talked off air about the fact student athlete, and I mentioned to you that most time when I get a chance to talk to these student athletes, it's late in the interview before I can ask them what their field of study is, and Kirsta came right out. I'm here, I'm a junior from here in Ohio near Cedar Point, and I'm a graphics art major. And it's interesting to see how the student athlete, like Kirsta, puts the student part first and the athlete part second.
Well, and she understands why she's here. She's going to be a very successful graphic art designer, probably make a lot more money than you or I. I hope she donates it all back to IPFW.
Or John, as he says.
But she just understands, why she's here and has her priorities in order. She's not someone I worry about, when we're away from campus, whether or not she's going to get that work done on her own time and communicate with the professor in a professional manner. Kirsta takes care of her business without me having to remind her, like a lot of our freshmen need over and over again. She's just a very good example for our younger players, and she's been that way since her freshman year. It's just the way she is.
Let me ask one more question, and then I promise we'll talk about this weekend. From the student-athlete point of view, your team has been on the road for 3 weekends in a row. How has it been for them? How difficult has it been to make sure they keep up with their studies?
Well, Coach Ball reminded me of that this morning. Coach, they're probably tired. I'm like, oh, tired from what? We don't even practice that hard. We had a better practice yesterday, but I have been disappointed with our level of effort sometimes during practice and our level of intensity. So, he reminded me we've been traveling a lot and they're probably tired. And so that probably is true. It's going to be great to be home both tonight against Bowling Green and this weekend hosting our home tournament. But we're not unique from a lot of volleyball teams early in the season. The first couple weeks of play is tournament time. And if you host one, which we do this weekend, and you don't host one at all those first couple weeks, then that means you're on the road. And maybe we should choose to stay closer to home and not take a nice trip like San Francisco. And that does mean missing a little more school and certainly coming up with some resources to do that. But I think providing experiencing like that for our student athletes is important. I have great memories as a player traveling out west my freshman year, and you don't forget those sort of things. And there's definitely something educational about a trip like that.
If they'd only get extra credit for
it. Yeah.
Home, and you mentioned it, and Kirsta mentioned it. It's good to be home, and now we get a chance. As we're taping this, it's Tuesday, and as you just mentioned, the home opener is tonight against Bowling Green. And I know we played them last year, I believe.
We lost in 4, I believe, at their place.
So let's talk about what you hope to expect tonight, and then let's finish off.
Well, I expect a competitive match. Bowling Green's just they're a very competitive, feisty team, and I would imagine there'll be a little talking going on tonight through the net. The spirit of competition. They're just an aggressive type team. They serve short a bunch. They have a nice outside hitter, Susie Norris. She's an Ohio kid. In fact, I think Kirsta probably played against her. They lost their best middle, but they're still playing well, and they've played some very strong competition like we have in these early weeks. They played Michigan. I think they played Colorado. So some of their losses, I think their record is not 500. I think it's less than 500. But it's really not a good reflection of probably what you'll see tonight. They're a good team.
Well, that's tonight, and and again, as we're taping it, it's already happened this weekend. The IPFW Invitational. In fact, we're going to be televising one of the matches on Saturday nights, 7 o'clock. Is it Wright State?
No, it's Marquette.
Marquette,
Saturday
yeah.
night. Friday night, we open up with Wright State in the tournament. Marquette and Western Illinois will play before us at 4:30. We're scheduled to play Wright State in the featured match at 7 o'clock. Saturday morning, we play Western Illinois at 10:30, and then we play Marquette at 7 p.m., which will be televised on Channel 56. Boy, we have a tough tournament. Marquette at Conference USA is on a roll. They're playing really well with their new coach, and I expect them to be very tough. Wright State beat a top 25 team in Michigan State about, 8 days ago or so, and playing really well. And they were a good team last year, and I think they have everybody back. So, they're going to be very, very tough. And Western Illinois is not off to quite as good a start as those two teams, but and they're from the Mid-Continent Conference. So we got to be ready to play this weekend.
Do you try to put in their mind the fact, let's go back to what we did against Purdue, nobody may expect us to do anything, so let's just go out and freewheel it?
That's not a bad idea. Why don't you come to practice tomorrow and talk about freewheeling? That's a great idea. No, we did talk about that actually a little bit yesterday, about think back to what it took at Purdue to get the job done and how we felt mentally, physically, emotionally. Drained. It was a lot of effort. We got to have that kind of effort every day if we're going to win. It's never going to be easy. It's never going to be easy for us this year to step on the court and win. It's going to be a battle, and we all have to play well. So I think we show up and we're going to be half-hearted about it. It's just not going to work at any position. So
we wish you well.
Thank you.
And
appreciate
we'll
that.
see you on Saturday night as well on TV.
Great.
Kelly Hartley has been our guest, head women's volleyball coach here at IPFW. We thank Kelly. We thank one of her players, junior Kirsta Solberg. And we thank head softball coach Keith Fisher as well for appearing this week. And as always, we thank you, the viewer, for tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW athletics. Again, come on out this weekend, Friday afternoon, Friday night, Saturday. You'll see some great Division I women's volleyball. And if you can't make it out Saturday night, tune in College 56, 7 o'clock. When the women's volleyball team will do action. So come on and enjoy the fun there. And we also invite you to come back next week when we hope to have Terry Stefankowitz and the soccer team back and see how they're doing. They've been doing a lot of traveling as well, but that's tentatively our guest for next week. And that's it. So until next week, this is Mike Moss saying have a great week and go Dons. very busy week last week and weekend for IPFW athletics, with action taking place on the volleyball court, the soccer field, and the tennis court. On this week's edition of Mastodon Spotlight, we'll take a look at what did happen. We'll visit with head soccer coach Terry Stefankowitz, and we'll look ahead to what's going to happen this coming weekend as the action keeps coming hard and furious here at IPFW. Our show is called Mastodon Spotlight, and it's coming up next. Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Maas. Welcome once again to Mastodon Spotlight. Well, we're going to be changing our format a little bit here on the program in an effort to bring you more results of what's taken place with IPFW athletics. We hope you'll enjoy the change, and please bear with us as we tinker around to get the best program possible. We're going to start this week with reviewing what happened first with tennis. Both the men's and women's tennis teams, coached by Eric Burns, were in action. We're going to start with the women's program. On the 14th of September, the team went down to Akron, Ohio, and took on a pair of opponents. They first took on the host Zips from the University of Akron, members of the Mid-American Conference. And by the way, now IPFW is a member of the Mid-American Conference in men's tennis as well, so that'll be interesting to see how that turns out. But the women's team came up on the short end of a 4-1 score, with the only victory for IPFW by Jill Carey in singles. Tough way to start, but things looked better in the afternoon match as IPFW took on St. Francis of Pennsylvania and won the match 4-3. They got singles victories at number 1 from Francesca Solari, and at number 5 from Julie Downs, and number 6 from Jill Carey. And also got some doubles wins. One of them counted in the team score, one did not, but Stephanie Blaney and Beth Miller defeated their opponent, as did Julie Downs and Jill Carey, and we had them on the show just a couple of weeks ago. So it was a split for the women on their trip to Ohio, and that's pretty good. The men's team also saw action a couple of times. On September 18th, here at IPFW, they took on Indiana Wesleyan, an NAIA school, and though I hate to say it, they came up on the short end of a 5-2 score, with the victories coming in singles. Number 4 singles, Billy Rustin defeated his opponent 6-4, 4-6, 6-2. And at number 5 singles, Sean Fisher was victorious by scores of 6-2 and 7-6. Also in the doubles, it didn't count the team score, but Ruxton and Chase defeated their opponent 8-5, a little bit different scoring in tennis, where in doubles you only play one set. Kind of interesting there. But tennis teams are doing well, and we hope to have Coach Eric Burns on the show next week to talk more about the progress of the teams. We turn our attention now to cross country. Coach Mike Frucci's teams, both men and women, were scheduled to participate in the Indiana Open Meet that's hosted by Indiana University down in Bloomington. But unfortunately, Mother Nature came in and had other ideas. As you may or may not know, there were some real bad storms last Friday, especially in the Indianapolis area where tornadoes touched down. And the team was en route to Bloomington for that meet when the storms hit. And probably a wise move, they turned around and came back. So it was unfortunate they weren't able to run, but their schedule continues as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And we hope to have Coach Frucci on the show next week as well, if everything falls into place. So cross-country teams are up and going, and we'll talk more about that next week. Now let's turn our attention to soccer, both men's and women's teams. And again, we're going to have Terry Stefankowitz on later in the program to talk in more detail about the progress of the soccer programs. But we're going to start with the women's team first. A week ago Tuesday, they traveled down to Terre Haute and they took on the Sycamores of Indiana State and came up on the short end of a 3-0 score. Then 2 days later, they traveled to Chicago to take on the Ramblers of Loyola of Chicago, a member of the Horizon League. And unfortunately, they couldn't put the ball in the net there as well, as they dropped a 4-0 decision. And on this past Monday, they finished a hectic week again on the road as they traveled up to Toledo to take on the Rockets of the Mid-American Conference. And they dropped a 5-0 decision. I know 3-0, 4-0, 5-0 sounds like the team wasn't in it, but believe me, they were. And you'll hear more from Coach Stefankowitz later to talk about how these matches progressed and what happened and didn't happen. So tough week for the women. They did drop all 3 of their matches. We turn now to the men's team. A little better story for the men. On September the 14th, the men traveled to Cleveland State, and they notched their 2nd win of the year as they took out the host Vikings, who are also members of the Horizon League, by a score of 6-2. A lot of scoring for IPFW, and I hope I don't mispronounce his name, but Marco Yagustin scored twice and had an assist. And other goal scorers were Ian Lulia, Craig Vandervessy, Seth Gibson, and Seth Fishelson. They each scored 1 goal apiece. Fishelson added 3 assists, and Scott Bailey 2 assists. So balanced scoring, real great performance by the men, and they came away with a 6-2 victory. Then this past weekend, they got back on the bus and they traveled up to Wisconsin, to Green Bay, Wisconsin to be exact, where they took on Wisconsin-Milwaukee, who was a very strong team. And last Saturday they dropped a 6-1 decision. Ian Lulia getting the only goal for IPFW. And then on Sunday, a tough, hard-fought 1-0 loss to the host, Wisconsin of Green Bay. So a win and 2 losses for the soccer team. Again, in the next segment, we're going to have Coach Terry Stefankowitz on and talk more about what's going on with these men's and women's soccer teams. And so we want you to stay tuned for that. Last but not least, Coach Kelly Hartley and the women's volleyball team saw a lot of action last week, and we want to spend a few moments and talk about that. In fact, we're going to show you some highlights as well. As last Tuesday here at the Gates Center, they played host in the season home opener to the Falcons of Bowling Green State University from the Mid-American Conference. And Coach Kelly Hartley knows Bowling Green well, as she is a graduate of the University of Toledo. And things didn't look too well for IPFW in games 1 and 2, as they just looked out of sync, weren't together, and they lost game 1 30-26 and game 2 30-22. And as you may or may not know, they have a mandatory break between games 2 and 3. And it was a 10-minute break, I believe, or 9-minute break. And one can only wonder what Coach Hartley said to the team in the locker room. But whatever it was, I think she wants to bottle it and hang on to it, because the team came out and played much, much better. They won game 3, 30-24. They won game 4, 30-26 to set up a winner-take-all game 5. And in soccer, they play rally point scoring to 30, win by 2 in games 1 through 4. And if it goes to a game 5, you play to 15, win by 2. And in game 5, they came back and they won game 5 15-11 to win the match. And at that point, they even their overall mark at 6-6. And taking a look at some of the numbers from game 5, balanced scoring definitely the key for IPFW. And in volleyball, just as and for some of you who may not know all the terminology and so forth, there are kills, which is an offensive attack. There are digs, which is more of the defense, and then your setter sets up her teammates, and you get assists that way. And in the Tuesday night win against Bowling Green, 5 Mastodons in double figures in kills, led by the Brazilian freshman Fabiana Souza with 20 kills. Sophomore Janelle Pollard with 17. 14 apiece for Kirsta Solberg, who we had in the program last week, and sophomore Mo Meinhardt out of Temperance Bedford High School near the Michigan-Ohio border. And Lindsey Brammer chipped in with 11 kills, so balanced scoring there, so to speak. On the dig side, 3 players in double figures, Souza and Lindy Bankowski with 12 digs, and Librero Sarah Leffers with 10. And as a setter, Lindy Bankowski had a good night with 63 assists. So it was a great come-from-behind win. There were over 360 people here at the Gates Center that saw it live and in person. And the huge majority of them walked out of the building happy with the come-from-behind win. As I said, that evened the record up at 6-6, and that set the stage for this past weekend when the first ever IPFW Invitational was held here at the Gates Center. And providing the opposition for IPFW was Wright State from the Horizon League, Western Illinois from the Mid-Continent Conference, and Marquette University from Conference USA. And we're going to talk about that tournament. On Friday night, IPFW's first opponent was Wright State, the Raiders, a very, very good volleyball team. A couple of weeks ago, they knocked off Michigan State, who at the time they played was ranked number 25 in the country, and last weekend went into action ranked 19th in the country. And Wright State had defeated the Spartans, so Coach Hartley knew it was going to be a tough chore. And unfortunately, the team fell, losing by scores of 30-27, 34-32 in a great second game that could have gone either way, and in 30-21. 3 members of the team in double figures in kills, Fabiana Souza with 14, Mo Meinhardt with 13, and Kirsta Solberg with 11. And Lindy Bankowski had 40 assists. But Wright State, very, very tough opponent, and they won the match in 3. Saturday morning, team had to get up bright and early. They had a 10:30 match against Western Illinois from the Mid-Con. Western, a team that's struggling. They've had a coaching change and a lot of young players, and they hadn't won a match yet this year, and that trend continued as IPFW won Saturday morning by scores of 30-25, 30-28, and 30-16. Janelle Poward led the way, 16 kills and 10 digs. Fabiana Souza, 13 kills and 14 digs. Mo Meinhardt had 14 kills. And Lindy Bankowski, 19 assists. And Ashley Roth, the Leo graduate, had a chance to get some action at the setter position, and she had 29 assists. So a good comeback for IPFW as they defeated Western Illinois in 3 to even their record at 7-7. And that brings us to the final match of the Invitational, where they took on Marquette University in a game you saw here on College 56 Sports, and you're looking at highlights as well. The Golden Eagles, another tough team, and this match went 4 games. IPFW won game 1, 30-23. Probably one of the best games of the season, one of the best games in getting off the blocks and playing well for the women's team. It's a problem that they've had, and I know Coach Hartley has mentioned it on our program, that sometimes they get a slow start. Well, they didn't get a slow start in game 1. They won 30-23, but Marquette came back. They won game 2, 30-21, and game 3 I thought was pivotal, and I mentioned during the break off air to Ryan Perrott and Mark Franke, who brought you the action, that I thought the winner of game 3 would win the match, and I hated to say it, but I proved to be a prophet for once, that if IPFW lost game 3, they may lose game 4 as well, and that's what happened. 30-26, Marquette wins in game 3, and 32-30 in game 4. IPFW had 3 game points in game 4. Tremendous, tremendous chance to win, but Marquette fought back, and they prevailed 32-30. The Dons had 4 gals in double figures in kills. Souza with 18, Janelle Poward with 18, Kirsta Solberg with 11, Lindsey Brammer with 10, and Lindy Bankowski had 56 assists. Again, a tough match. Could have gone either way. This is a team that's learning, as Coach Kelly Hartley has said in the program earlier this year. And with that loss, the team drops to a record of 7-8 overall. So tough weekend, long weekend, but a learning weekend for the volleyball team. That's all that happened this past week at IPFW on the athletic front. Time now for us to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to visit with head coach Terry Stefankowitz and talk in more detail about the progress of the men's and women's soccer teams. But that'll take place when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
They came from every corner of the country. From small towns and big cities. But they all shared one thing in common. They belonged to a family called Marines. A tough and determined few, dedicated to protecting everything we hold sacred. And still they come. Celebrate the 225-year history of those proud few who have earned the title Marine.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Time now for our visit with one of our coaches here on staff at IPFW, and this week it's head men's and women's soccer coach Terry Stefankowitz. And Terry, first and foremost, welcome back. Second question, do you know what city you're in?
I don't even know what day it is, Michael. The season's flying by for us.
It really has, and you and Mike and the team, and teams I should say, because again, you coach both the men's and the women's team. You've been all over the place.
Yeah, just last week, Tuesday we had a women's game. Thursday we had a women's game. Friday we got on the bus and drove all the way up to Green Bay for games Saturday and Sunday. Returned about 2 in the morning to get up on and get on the bus again Monday to go to Toledo with the women. So it's been a whirlwind tour.
We're going to talk about what's happened in the last week to 10 days, primarily with both teams here this week. But just talk about briefly, as you said, this season has been flying by. It just seems like a couple of weeks ago we were talking about the showcase, and now both teams have been at it for some time.
Yeah, both teams have been. The work rate's been really good. We were going to talk about the women in this segment, so the number one thing right now with the women is overcoming some injuries. We've had 5 starters out. One, Kelly DeArmond's out for the season with an ACL tear, and she'll have surgery on October 10th. And then we had a concussion with Trish Presbondowski, and she's out for 2 weeks. And then an ankle injury to Sarah DeZarmo, and 2 kids had the flu, and now one as of this morning, has strep throat. So it's been a tough time, and what we have to do is find kids that can plug in and trust each other, a trust factor, and we can get into that a little bit more. But once you train in the preseason, you get a starting lineup together, and then you lose 5 or 6, it creates a big void. And the girls have worked hard to plug the holes until little by little we get them back. But there are some things we need to address.
When kids go down with injuries, what's that do to the morale of the remaining members of the team?
It was a tough week last week. Losing games always affects you mentally. One of the things we talked about early in the season is to be resilient and be able to bounce back. So we've mentioned that several times in the past week. What's happening to us now, we're playing good soccer for the most part. It's a turnover that causes the floodgates to open. We just got back from Toledo, and they scored 5 goals on us. And as I told the girls at halftime, really it was a 3-0 lead at halftime, and I said, really, it's 1-0. We gave them 2 goals, 2 mistakes, poor passes in the back. Next thing you know, in Division I, it's 3-0. So I said, let's get back on track. And then again, we shoot ourselves in the foot. In 2 minutes' time, they get the 4th goal, and the game was really over with. It's funny, 4 goals maybe took a minute and a half, and the rest of the time they played pretty well. They settled down. We had good looks at the goal. We had 12 shots on goal ourselves. Nothing went in, unfortunately, but sometimes that happens with a team, and it can go for a week, and then all of a sudden the floodgates open on your side. The main thing is that we need that glue on the team, that we believe in each other and we're all in this together, and it's not just a 1-person game or a 2-person game. So we're trying to address that with some new people, and we're going to get it done.
Let's talk a little bit. You mentioned the Toledo game, and it was a game you lost 5-0. Let's talk about a couple of the other matches that you played recently as well. You mentioned being on the road. Back on the 17th, you went down to Terre Haute, and you took on the Sycamores of Indiana State. And final score is 3-0, but let's talk about that match, because sometimes numbers are misleading.
And that definitely is the case with the Indiana State game. We respected Indiana State. They had a winning record. They were 4-2 going into the match, and we still felt that we were capable of coming out of an away game with a victory. The game was one of those where we dominated play. They had a dangerous player up top, but she wasn't the best player we've seen all season. And they got a goal early in the game, and then we settled in and we played really, really well. And as the game went on, we got stronger. With 7 minutes left in the game, it's still 1-0, and we were dominating. We were at the penalty area for about 5 minutes, just knocking on the door, shot after shot, and you could just feel the adrenaline. And they got a quick counterattack, scored, and it was 2-0. Then we made a drastic mistake in the back and gave them a 3rd goal right at the end. I think there was 15 seconds left in the game. But that's the difference in maturity. You know, we have a bunch of young kids. We only have 1 senior on the team. If we could have knocked in that 1 goal, we'd have won that game, because we had the momentum, and then we let them out and then lose. Yeah. So,
well, you look at some of the numbers in that game. You outshot them. Shots 17-16 when it was all said and done, and they committed more fouls, which shows aggressiveness on your team's part, attacking the zone.
Yeah.
17-13, and look at a couple other numbers. We talk about shots, and you want to get to your gals that got the strong legs, and Kristen McDonald, 6 shots, and Megan, I know I screw it up. Is it Grzanka or Grzanka?
Grzanka.
She had 5.
Yeah.
So that's 11 shots right there between 2 of your players up front.
Megan's a threat from outside 30 yards. That girl can hit bombs. Kristen needs, or her best attribute is a quick shot with the left foot. She took a few shots in that game that were a little bit outside her range. Even though they were shots on goal, they weren't difficult ones. When Kristen is facing the goal and has the ball inside the box on her left foot, that's when she's most dangerous. So we need to get the right people in the right locations to use their strengths.
Well, again, that score was 3-0, or 3-0 as they say in soccer land. And then you get on the bus and you go to Chicago 2 days later. And you took on the Ramblers of Loyola of Chicago. And this one, the final score said 4-0.
That is the first time all season that we did not play well at all. That was a game where we were flat from start to finish. Again, and I hate to use it as an excuse, but when you have 5 starters out, you can replace them for a period of time. When you play 2 games back-to-back in Division I, you're getting beat up every day. And some of the girls who weren't used to playing had to play as starters, and they were playing for 90 minutes, played for 90 minutes at Indiana State, and then get on the bus and go to Loyola, play another 90 minutes. And it took a toll on us. We came back mentally and physically depleted. And we took a couple days off to regroup, and the kids are back now. And I think it'll be this is an important week for us because we have 2 home games. We have Murray State on Friday, and we have Wright State on Sunday. Playing on our home field in front of the home crowd, and by the way, our crowds have been really, really good. Lots of screaming and hollering, and the support of the volleyball teams and the basketball teams and the baseball team. It's been terrific. I think we'll make a good showing this weekend.
In terms of game strategy, and you had to do this both with Loyola and with Toledo as well, when you've got 5 starters out, in terms of game preparation, obviously you want to win, and that means you got to do both. You got to put the ball in the opposition's net, and you got to keep it out of your net. But where does the strategy change? Do you go into more of a defensive shell, or how do you and Mike set things up based on the injury factor?
And that's a great question. Well, we analyzed it, and we decided that we would give up midfield. We took all of our midfielders and pulled them out of the midfield. We put 2 of them up front and 2 in the back, so we had 6 backs, no midfield, and 4 forwards. And we said, okay, let them dribble out there, let them play with it in the midfield. We'll give that up. We'll defend well, we'll attack well. And maybe the strategy didn't work as well as we anticipated. But again, other than the Loyola game, the girls played really, really well. It's still going to be a good season.
Well, at this point of the season, if I look at the numbers real quick, we have won 1 match, and we've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we had a 2-2 tie with Valpo. So at least we kept that unbeaten string intact against the Valparaiso Crusaders.
That's true. The 2 games that, we won 1 and tied 1, we had to come from behind to beat IUPUI, who had beaten us last year, so that was a plus. Valparaiso we beat in the last minute last year, but they really outplayed us. This year we outplayed them, we outshot them, and should have won the game. Even though our record doesn't indicate that we're doing well, there's been a great improvement. People saw 2 home games, one against Valpo, one against Niagara. Niagara's undefeated. It was a game we should have won. It was a nip and tuck game. They have one of the most outstanding forwards in the country. Her name's Luzak. She's from the New York area, and she's fast, she's tough, and Shasina had all she could handle that day. But quality-wise, we're playing much better. A W against Murray State on Friday and another one on Sunday. You'll see a whole different attitude the rest of the season. So this is a big weekend for us.
Time for a break, and when we come back, we're going to shift gears slightly and talk about the performance of the men's soccer team. But that'll take place when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
As time flows on, there are places we return to again and again. Places that comfort us with their serenity. Places that astound us with their beauty. Places where our memories come to life. Precious places, timeless places, places that with your help can endure forever. I'm Paul Newman, Help the Nature Conservancy save the last great places around the world.
I was a liberal arts major in college.
I didn't speak a second language.
What could I?
What could I offer the Peace Corps?
The answer surprised me. I served in South Africa teaching HIV/AIDS awareness.
Working with my students in Nicaragua was a great experience. We taught each other a lot about our countries and cultures.
This is the Peace Corps today.
Redefine your world. Join the Peace Corps.
Apply now at peacecorps.gov.
All over America, people are taking the National Radon Test. Have you?
Would you put me on the spot?
True or false? Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer.
True. I'd say false.
No, it's true.
That's something new to me.
The Office of the Surgeon General recommends all homes be tested for radon.
False.
It's true.
True.
So that's bad. We should get our house tested.
Sure, I'm gonna call it.
1-800-SOS-RADON. How can you not call?
1-800-SOS-RADON.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. We are talking soccer. Our guest is the head coach for both men's and women's soccer here at IPFW, Terry Stefankowitz. And Terry, as I said at the last segment, at the end of it, let's switch gears now a little bit. We've talked about the women, and hopefully things will get better, and these younger players who have had to step in will benefit from the experience, and down the road it'll build some depth, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's shift our attention to the men's team, and I don't know how you and Mike do it, truthfully. You field 2 full teams of student athletes, and how you could juggle practices and matches and traveling. Crazy, isn't it?
Very much so. Mike and I have gotten used to it, but one of the biggest differences we see, since we are playing all Division I teams now, nearly every Division I team we play against has a head coach and 2 full-time assistants per team. We have Mike and I for 2 teams. And the organization of scheduling the travel, where we're staying, compliance, this PASS program, you know, we really, really are proud of the fact that we're the #1 academic team on campus in terms of the women, and second with the men. So we want to maintain that, and then we want to do well on the field as well. It's tough, but Mike and I are used to it now, and we don't really worry that much about it. What we want to do is get better, a lot better.
Well, let's talk about the travails and the trials from the men's team. As I said before we started this segment, I want to go back. You made a trip with the men to Coastal Carolina, and a couple of tough games there. Then you came back, and a week ago Saturday, you were at Cleveland State and took on the Vikings from the Horizon League. And you came out of that one with a 6-2 win. Let's talk about that match a little bit.
Well, we had come off a tough trip in Coastal Carolina. The grass is Bermuda grass. It was like playing on a golf green. It was extremely, extremely fast, and we weren't used to that. We played a great Coastal Carolina team who's ranked now in the top 20. They haven't lost a game, and I think we learned a lot from that game because they were the quickest, best team we've played all season. And we had some definite learning experiences in terms of defending against that kind of speed, and I think we've improved because of that. The next day, that day took a lot out of us, and the next day we had to come back against Charleston Southern, and that was a game we should have won. We lost 3-2, and 2 of their goals were on corner kicks, and I'm going to address that at the end of the show if I can.
Mm-hmm.
But your question is Cleveland State. Cleveland State is a team that beat us last year in overtime. They had just beaten Cincinnati, a nationally ranked team, and then they went over to Butler and beat Butler, and Butler killed us last year. So we were a little apprehensive, and we went up there and they scored right away against us. 1-0, Cleveland State. And I looked at Mike. Mike looked at me, and we thought,
Here we go.
Here we go again. And Scott Bailey got a ball at the edge of the box and passed it back to Ian. And Ian Luya hit an absolute bullet. This goalkeeper was shell-shocked. He was standing like this, and the ball was already in the back of the net. He never even saw it. It was a rocket. So that's 1-1, and it happened so quickly. Now the momentum changed. And we're up, and they were like, what hit us? And the next thing you knew, Seth Fichelson had probably his greatest game. He had 3 assists and a goal. And Marco Yagustin had 2 goals. And the prettiest goal of the day was, again, Scott Bailey's assist. He was dribbling through about 4 guys, and out of the corner of his eye, he saw Fish making a run through the middle, and he was running full blast, and Bailey gave him a ball. He never adjusted his run whatsoever. It was just a constant run, and boom, in the back of the net. Mike and I looked at each other then and said, whoa, we're on fire. And the final score was 6-2. In reality, we scored 8 goals. They called 2 of them back. One was offside, and the other one, if this is the end line, they said that Billy Foreman's ball went out over the end line and back into the goal, and that's humanly impossible. It would have had to have taken an S turn, go out and back in. So I think the referee just had seen enough and disallowed that one.
But it was a big win.
That was a great day. Great day.
Well, that I guess that's the good side of the coin. Now we need to talk a little bit about the bad side, and that's the trip to Wisconsin last weekend. As you said, you got on the bus and.
Again, it's an 8-hour drive up there, and Green Bay was a gracious host. They really rolled out the red carpet for us and made us feel really comfortable. But we had to play Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is an outstanding team. It's an NCAA tournament team. We looked forward to playing them, and we really knocked it around really well on them. We controlled most of the game. They have some quick forward or midfielders, but Ian and Craig Vandefussy and Garrett Buck matched them head for head, and it made me realize that we're real close to turning the corner here. And it was a game that escaped us only because of corner kicks. 3 corner kick goals, 3 in one game. You take away those 3 and now it's an even game. Matter of fact, with 30 minutes left in the game, it's 2-1 them, and we had the momentum, and then they had 3 quick 3 goals.
Well, let's talk about a corner kick. And for those who may not understand soccer per se, corner kick, obviously, in essence, it's a free kick from the corner, and usually you get someone with a real strong leg, but there's strategy behind it. Because I know your goalkeeper tends to pick one side of the pipes, and it's a jockeying.
The goalkeeper reads which direction that the taker of the corner is setting up. It's an in-swinger or an out-swinger. If he's standing away, it's going to be an in-swinger coming in. If he's standing facing in, it's going to be an out-swinger going out, and you readjust that way. What we have done, because of the World Cup, everybody had gone to man-to-man marking on a corner kick situation. So we play man-to-man during the course of play, so we went to a man-to-man marking scheme defensively. In all my years, I've been coaching for, 20-some years, I have never had more than 3 or 4 corner kicks scored on a team that we've been involved with. We've had 10 scored against us this year. It cost us 3 games already, 3 one-goal games. The difference was corner kicks. So as a matter of fact, today the entire practice is dedicating to changing our philosophy back to zone. What has happened, Mike and I realized in watching the tape and also talking to Peter, our goalkeeper, man-to-man situations, you're not supposed to set picks in soccer,
But
like
they get set
basketball,
anyway.
but they get set. We have a couple big guys, but we've got a lot of slender, quick guys that are getting knocked off the ball and not able to fight through these picks. So we're going to go back to a zone situation where you're in charge of an area instead of a man. So it will improve. I guarantee you it will improve.
Well, final score was 6-1, Wisconsin-Milwaukee on top. And then the next day you come right back and you took on Wisconsin-Green Bay from the Horizon League. And a closer game on the scoreboard. I mean, final score was 1-0.
That was our game. It was our game to win. We dominated play. I'd say we had possession of the match 70% of the time. One corner kick, it's the end of the game. 7 minutes left in the game, they scored. And again, three games now we've lost because of corner kicks. The one thing I'm excited about, Mike, is that if that's all it is, we're close. We're really, really close. Athletically, we're very good. We're talented. Technically, we've got a ways to go, but we have enough technical players that we can get the job done. I'm excited about the work rate that the guys show, start to finish. They're growing up. We're starting 8 underclassmen out of the 11. And every day I think they're getting better.
I've only got about a minute left. 2 quick questions. You talked about the injury situation with the women. Where do we stand injury-wise with the men?
We're good with the men. We have John Skonecki out, and we have Lauren Stumpner out. Other than those two, everybody's pretty healthy.
Final question. This weekend, another tough weekend. Home match Friday night, 6 o'clock here at the Hefner Fields against Eastern Illinois, a team that beat you last year 8-2. And then on Sunday, you go up to the Motor City and take on the Titans of the University of Detroit Mercy, and you did not play them last year. Final quick thoughts on these upcoming 2 matches.
Well, we did play Detroit
Did we play them last year?
Oh, yeah.
My apologies.
They've got a forward that's about 6'4", about 220, and he has great touch, so he's very dangerous. Eastern Michigan is one that we really want. It was in a situation where I didn't feel like they were good sports. I mean, when you're ahead by 6 and you're trying to score with the last 15 seconds and the coach is egging them on, something I haven't forgotten, and I think we'll change that tune real quick.
Well, best of luck to you this weekend, and on both fronts, the men and the women. And hopefully, like you say, the gals will start getting healthier. And we wish Kelly DeArmond the best with this upcoming surgery, because an ACL, it's never fun, and there's going to be a lot of rehab. So.
She has a good attitude, and she's a strong girl. She'll bounce right back.
Well, good luck, and we'll talk to you down the road.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Terry Stefankowitz has been our guest, the head coach for both men's and women's soccer here at IPFW. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll take a look at what's coming up this weekend for all IPFW athletic teams. But that's when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
The good earth. It gives us everything. And now you can give something back. By becoming an Earth Team volunteer, you can help the Natural Resources Conservation Service care for the good earth. Right in your own community. It's the only earth we'll ever have. Help make it a better place for all of us. Call 1-888-LAND-CARE to find out how.
A Stargate. That's the door to other worlds that my character Tilk and the rest of my team use on Stargate SG-1. It's a door to exploration and exciting adventure. And education can provide you with a similar passageway to a world full of possibilities. So stay in school and graduate.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Once again, we want to thank Terry Stefankowitz for coming in. I know he's busy trying to coach 2 soccer teams and juggling practices, games, and so forth. We really appreciate him coming in and spending some time with us to talk about the soccer program. Time now for us to look ahead to see what's happening this coming weekend on the athletic front here at IPFW. And we're going to start with women's softball. Tomorrow, being Saturday, Coach Keith Fisher's squad is going to be entertaining the Trojans of Taylor University from up in Ashland in a doubleheader with Game 1 scheduled to start at 11 o'clock. We talked to Coach Fisher last week on the program. Team has already played 4 games this fall, and they've won 3 of the 4, and they hope to make it 5 out of 6 if they're successful. But again, Game 1 starts at 11. Be sure to come on out because it's going to be the last chance you're going to get to see women's softball in action until March 25th of 2003, and that's when the Crusaders of Valparaiso University come to town. So come on out and support the IPFW women's softball team. Cross country, men's and women's team are on the road as they are up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the University of Minnesota, where weather permitting and Mother Nature cooperates. That'll be great. They're going to take place in the Ray Greliak, and I hope I pronounced that right, Invitational. Again, a tournament run by the University of Minnesota up in Minneapolis. They hope to be running in that tomorrow. So good luck to the cross-country team. And as we said earlier, we hope to have Coach Mike Frucci with us next week. Women's volleyball, no rest for the weary there as well. Pair of matches going on this weekend as this show is being aired. The women's team is at the Gates Center. They are taking on the Grizzlies of Oakland University from the Mid-Con. Second meeting of the year between these two teams. Back on September 4th, the Mastodons went up to Rochester, Michigan, and came back with a hard-fought win, winning the match 3-1. Then next Tuesday, the team goes back on the road. Seems like they lived the first 6 weeks of the season on the road, but then been home for a while. But they go on the road to Chicago next Tuesday, where they're going to take on Chicago State from the Mid-Con. Women's tennis team has the weekend off. The men's team scheduled to play an invitational down in Muncie at Ball State University. We wish them well. Again, we hope to have Coach Eric Burns on next week as well. And last but not least, as we talked about a few minutes ago, both soccer teams are in action. Again, tonight, as we speak, the men's soccer team is at home, and they are taking on Eastern Illinois. And then tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock at Hefner Fields, the women's team's in action. They're going to play host to Murray State University. These two teams played last year, and Murray State came out on top 5-3, so a little bit of payback in hopes for our women's soccer team, 1 o'clock tomorrow at the Hefner Fields. And then on Sunday, the men's team travels up to Detroit to take on the Titans of the University of Detroit Mercy, and so we wish them well on that. So that's basically it. A lot of activity has happened, is happening, will happen. We always invite you to come out and support IPFW athletics in person, whether it's the softball field, the soccer field, the tennis court, whatever. Come on out and support your IPFW Mastodons. If you can't make it to any of the venues this weekend, come on back and join Mastodon Spotlight next week, and we'll tell you what's happened. Again, that's it for the program this week. Hope you like the new format. We hope to do things bigger and better for you to bring you the very best in IPFW athletics. We thank Coach Terry Stefankowitz, and we thank you, the viewer, as well, for tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW athletics. Until next week, this is Mike Maas saying, have a great week, and go Dons.